Louis Pasteur was a chemist, microbiologist, and inventor. Although he is mostly well known for inventing the pasteurization process in our milk, Pasteur did much more. Through his strong interest and passion for learning more about germs and microbiology, he paved the way for further exploration for others. Pasteur made significant contributions related to the study of bacteria, including the areas of spontaneous generation, creation of vaccines for many diseases, and the sterilization of hospitals, including the operating room. Louis Pasteur not only studied the causes of diseases, germs, and bacteria, he was also determined to discover cures or solutions for them. Born on December 27, 1822 in Dole, France, Louis Pasteur was the son of a poor tanner. Although expected to continue the family business, he went on to college at the College of Arbois in Besançon, where he graduated in the arts in 1840. Later, he attended the distinguished École Normale Supérieure of Paris. While in school, he studied crystallography, which was a very vague topic at the time. He solved the mystery dealing with tartaric and paratartaric acids. Although the two acids were known to be made of the same compound, Pasteur found that some attributes of the crystals were different. The first difference he found from his experiments was that light shined or rotated differently with the acids. Further, he saw that tartaric crystals rotated the polarized light to the left, and paratartaric crystals did not rotate the polarized light at all. From this discovery, Pasteur found out why the two acids had exactly the same compositions but rotated light differently. After many months of looking under his microscope, Pasteur saw a tiny difference between the two acids and noticed the crystals to actually be opposite or mirror images of themselves. Pasteur had discovered the beginning of chirality. Two acids are compounds that have the same composition but can also have different stereochemistry. Soon after his discovery, Pasteur accepted a job as professor of chemistry and dean of science at the University of Lille in 1854. There, he encountered a new problem from one of his students. A student's father's sugar beet alcohol vats were spoiling instead of fermenting as they were supposed to. Pasteur collected samples of good and bad alcohol alike and studied them under his microscope whenever possible. He discovered that there were live microorganisms called yeasts in the good samples. These yeasts then multiplied and eventually fermented the juice into alcohol. In the bad samples, Pasteur discovered they contained millions of black rods that conquered the yeasts. He concluded that the bad samples spoiled and did not ferment properly due to lack of sterilization. He led a series of successful experiments to prove that the microorganisms were alive and that they originated from dust. This discovery led to his creation of pasteurization, the process of heating then cooling milk, beer, or wine to get rid of bad bacteria. Not only did this process help with consuming liquids, it also helped sterilize medical instruments used in surgery. Around the same time, Pasteur started to revolutionize the germ theory. The germ theory states that specific microscopic organisms are the cause of specific diseases. Although he was not the first to come up with the theory, he helped to further develop and support it. Opposite to the germ theory was spontaneous generation, which said that microbes basically were formed from organic matter. Pasteur disagreed with the theory of spontaneous generation, and many of his experiments sought out to make the public accept that microbes did not create themselves, but rather they had come from a parent or another source, such as yeast or dust. By 1865, Louis Pasteur was well known throughout Europe. During this same year, he was called to solve yet another challenging issue. The silkworm industry in France was failing due to a major epidemic of silkworms. In just 4 months, he had found the 2 microorganisms causing the silkworm disease, and after 3 years of hard work, he produced a solution to control the disease. However, tragedy struck and it took its toll on him. In the course of a mere 2 years, Pasteur's father and 2 of his daughters died, not including another daughter who had died just a year before. As a result, in 1868, he suffered from cerebral hemorrhage, which left part of his left arm and leg permanently paralyzed. Nevertheless, he continued to follow his work, which took him to his fight to sterilize the instruments and steam the bandages for the endless number of patients during the Franco-Prussian War. After many months, the medical committee, exasperated, finally agreed. Even though the French lost the war, Pasteur had saved thousands of lives, and it was considered such a great success, he was made a member of the French Academy of Medicine, an impressive achievement for someone with no medical degree. Perhaps one could argue that Pasteur's most important achievement was the creation of many vaccines. At first, Pasteur began researching a cure for the anthrax disease, but he then switched his focus to fowl cholera. To experiment, Pasteur had chickens in his laboratory that were contaminated with fowl cholera. Every few days, Pasteur would reintroduce fowl cholera into his lab. After several months of experimentation, he went on vacation, and during this time, the fowl cholera was not continually reintroduced. Soon upon returning from vacation, he reintroduced the disease into his laboratory, but this time, the chickens did not become infected as before. Instead, the chickens had a microbe that protected them from fowl cholera entering their system. This new discovery encouraged Pasteur to continue his study of diseases, starting with anthrax. In 1876, a serious outbreak of anthrax had motivated Pasteur to experiment for a vaccine to the disease. Pasteur produced a successful vaccine created from weakened anthrax bacilli, which was then heated. In 1881, in front of crowds of people, he brought 24 sheep, 1 goat, and 6 cows. They were twice treated with Pasteur's vaccine, then injected with anthrax. A control group of the same amount would also be injected with anthrax, but not with the vaccine. 2 days after the animals were injected with anthrax, the results came to great applause. All the treated animals had lived, while almost all the untreated animals were dead by the end of the day. Pasteur's greatest achievement in the creation of vaccines was the rabies vaccine. Pasteur searched for a disease that affected both humans and animals alike. This dreaded disease was not common to humans and was mostly transmitted to dogs and other animals. Rabies was a very tough disease to create a vaccine for because the disease was a virus and not a type of bacteria, which meant that it could not be cultured or created in a laboratory. In 1884, and after 5 years of research with other fellow scientists and chemists, he produced a method for cultivating the virus through rabbit tissue. The vaccine was first successfully tested in animals such as monkeys and rabbits, and then finally on July 6, 1885, Pasteur's vaccine saved the life of a young boy named Joseph Meister. After multiple injections of the vaccine was given over the course of 12 days, Joseph Meister made a full recovery. During Pasteur's latter years in life, he opened an institution called Institut Pasteur in 1888. It is still operating today and is considered as one of the elite institutions for biomedical research around the world. Another company founded from his research is the company of Sanofi Pasteur, a pharmaceutical company that produces and discovers vaccines. Louis Pasteur's exploration for modern medicine and microbiotic research still impacts the world in our daily lives, and his experimentations with vaccines, bacteria, and the germ theory still save millions of lives each year.